Well, welcome everyone. We are here with Carol Goss from Fort Bend County, and she's going to tell us about the Fort Bend County Master Gardener Vegetable Demonstration and Teaching Garden. Carol is their president. Carol, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jayla. As she pulls up the presentation, I wanted to give you just a real quick overview of the demonstration gardens that we have available to tour 24/7 at our location in Rosenberg, Texas, at the corner essentially of Highway 36 and Highway 59, adjacent to the extension offices and the fairgrounds in Rosenberg, Texas. While I won't be featuring all of the gardens that are available to tour, I wanted to at least tell you that we have a number of gardens available to see, and in a small amount of space, you can see all of them. We essentially have 8 with one coming, which is our backyard orchard. The orchard is yet to be developed. We have the herb garden, the vegetable garden, including rainwater harvesting, the compost area, shade garden, native garden, front yard HOA garden, butterfly garden, and Texas Superstar Garden. But for the purposes of today's presentation, we wanted to really focus on one area that actually includes a lot of educational opportunities. And that area is highlighted there on that slide with a big arrow, a big kind of red box with an arrow pointing to the educational objectives that we have highlighted for that garden. And so that vegetable demonstration and teaching garden, essentially for Fort Bend County, will allow us to achieve 4 broad educational objectives. The first is in-person home food production for both youth and adult. The second area is water conservation through rainwater harvesting and efficient use of water. The third is composting. And within the vegetable beds themselves, we harvest many hundreds of pounds of vegetables that go to our local food bank. So Jayla, progress to the next slide if you don't mind. So another thing that we have accomplished with respect to this particular garden is a lot of hands-on work by all of our master gardeners from about May of 2020 to current. We get hands-on experience in experimenting with new vegetable varieties, fertilizer application, drip irrigation, and installation. But as you can imagine, this garden did not start out looking like you're going to see in the slides to come. In fact, during COVID, because of restrictions in actually showing up and working in these gardens, most of them were in disrepair and were overgrown with weeds. But we heard about an opportunity to apply for a grant in May of 2020, and we only had 22 days in which to submit that application. And in that 22 days, we were able to get the application completed and submitted, and we were successful in getting that grant. And the grant was from the Natural Resources Texas Urban and Rural Conservation Project in the amount of $9,000. Now, looking at the before pictures here, you can see, again, it was overgrown with weeds. We had a number of beds that were made with different materials, some of which were falling apart. These were just bricks on one side and concrete paver, or not pavers, but concrete on the other. But in general, it wasn't necessarily a garden that exhibited our best practices as gardeners. It was strictly for the growing of vegetables and for master gardeners to train and interns to learn. We did use the produce for our local food banks even before this grant was given to us. But we decided that because things were in disrepair and really needed to be revamping, we wanted to take the monies that we were given, plus monies that we had earned through our various fundraisers to create a hands-on learning and teaching a garden that also demonstrated best practices. And so, as you can see on the right-hand side, on June 3rd of last year, we officially had what we called our ribbon cutting ceremony, approximately 2 years after that grant application. For that particular garden to happen, there were a lot of challenges. During most of it, we were limited due to COVID restrictions. We had a lot of Zoom calls to talk about planning. We were unable to necessarily work hands-on for part of that time. The various supplies and materials that we needed for the beds weren't necessarily readily available due to supply constraints. And so it was really, in my opinion, an inspiration and a joy that we were able to get this garden going even during the toughest times of COVID. And we plan to really take advantage of what we've created in reaching out to our community and spreading the word of home food production and all the different educational opportunities that you can learn from in that particular garden. The pictures on the left speak for themselves. That was the before. The picture on the right is a panoramic picture that shows the beds as they are organized in the current vegetable garden. The picture on the bottom shows the ribbon cutting, and the picture to its right shows one of the 4 rainwater harvesting tanks and some of the beds, in addition to a raised bed Trug vegetable planter, which I'll talk about coming up. Jayla, can you progress to the next slide? Okay, so on this particular slide, you can really get an idea of what this garden looks like now. In the center was what we called the future state. And as you can see in the blue rectangles, those represent the raised beds that we have in this garden. We have 14 beds that are 12 foot by 4 foot, made out of 12-inch cedar boards. And those are used for adult education primarily and food production. The 3 beds up at the top are also cedar, but they're 8 by 4. And those have been used by youth programs and demonstrations of planting vegetables or whatever that particular program is requiring. Behind that, you can see I have in a green square notated as the compost area, where we donate things from our kitchens and gardens that can be composted, and it's directly adjacent to the garden, and people can look and learn from that particular compost area. The structure that you see on the far left, which has a green roof, is basically a commercial structure that we use as a pavilion for gathering. We have 4 or 5 picnic tables with benches there available for gatherings. And on each corner of that particular building, we have stainless rainwater harvesting tanks. Those particular tanks hold 1,625 gallons of water, and I've been told that they will fill with only 3.2 inches of rain. And that's an amazing thing. If we get the amount of rain that we think in Fort Bend County, which is between 46 and 48 inches annually, we are capable of producing 17,500 gallons of water per year at 95% efficiency. We do also have the option for city water if we enter a period of drought, which we did experience last year. In order to keep our vegetable production up, we would use city water, and we can shut those tanks off with the system that we currently have in place. As you can see on the right, we have an example of the cedar 12 by 4 beds that we have with some vegetables already planted in them. These are possibly peppers. And you can see there the drip irrigation. that is on every bed, fed by those rainwater tanks. Now, again, if we don't get the rain that we need to fill those tanks, we do have a shut-off valve for each of those beds. Adjacent to the vegetable garden, you'll see also in the future state is our herb garden, which is an existing garden to the right as you're facing the vegetable garden. It won't be featured today, but we have all sorts of edible herb varieties there. And if you came to visit us, we'd be happy to show you that garden as well. The picture that's at the bottom is also a panoramic picture that was taken that shows on the far left the herb garden. We're under the roof of the pavilion. You can see picnic tables. You can see 3 of the 4 stainless water tanks. You can see the cedar beds, both the larger and the smaller being to the far right. You can also see on the very far right the newest addition, which was a trug bed built by one of our master gardeners and then moved to that particular area. And it is obviously raised and very convenient for those that can't bend over or are in wheelchairs for gardening. And I think that's a nice addition to some educational opportunities for showing how different types of beds can be used to enable gardening. All right, can you go to the next slide? So what do we have planned for this garden? We've already had numerous programs in 2022, and we're doing similar programs coming up in 2023. First of all, our gardens are open 24/7, and we don't necessarily know everyone that comes to the garden. But for those that are planned tours or programs, we do. And we do have public garden tours where they can come, and we have master gardeners available to tour and show all the plants and gardens that we have available. And we have signs on most all of the plants that we have throughout our demonstration gardens and in the vegetable garden as well. We also have garden tours for some of the garden clubs in the area. In the coming months, and we've already started, we have homeschool groups coming. We have Earthkind Kids Camp coming up this summer. And we've had Girl Scouts already come and plant carrots and harvest carrots in our garden. For our adult education, we have a series that we've already started called Grow Your Own. The first one that we had, which was in February, was fruit trees. That's not reflected here, but we're hoping that when we get our edible orchard planted, that we're going to be able to have hands-on education in that particular garden as part of this Grow Your Own series. Last month in March, the edible garden planning had over 100 participants in person. And you can see on the left that after we had our presentation, we had a tour of our vegetable garden, and we talked about what had been shown to them in the presentation about planting and raised beds and varieties of vegetables that you could plant, drip irrigation, etc. That was somewhat of a high-level presentation because we knew that we had other series coming up that would delve into those topics in a lot more detail. In fact, the next session that's coming up is on the 15th, which is this Saturday. It's called Warm Season Vegetables and Herbs. The registration is over 300 individuals at this point, and I'm not sure we'll have all 300 show up, but I think there's a lot of interest in growing your own vegetables at this point in time. On the right in that particular picture, I believe that was from our Earthkind Kids Camp from 2022, and we already had some vegetables to show them and for them to see in person at the kids camp. We also have had some opportunities to meet and work with Boy Scouts, and that's not reflected on this slide. But one thing that is to come is one of our Boy Scouts was inspired to create a lending library as his Eagle project, and he is working on that currently. That particular lending library will be located in our vegetable garden and will contain materials for education pertaining to growing your own vegetables, and also possibly seed packets and other free giveaways for anyone that might happen to come onto the garden and want to take something home with them. Jayla, you can progress to the next slide. With respect to one of our other objectives with this garden was food bank donations. We had been giving to our local food bank since 2017, and I've been told that we had over 8,400 pounds of food donated during that time. During 2022, which was really the first year of production in the newly constructed garden beds, we harvested 922 pounds of food in that particular year. And I think it's particularly notable that even when we could not donate food that we had grown in our demonstration gardens, the Fort Bend group donated from their own personal home gardens. And you can see in the pictures there to the bottom right, and then in the middle, some of the master gardeners that would show up on Wednesdays and would donate from their own home gardens. And then those donations were taken to the food bank. Now, the goal, though, is obviously to increase our donations in 2023 and beyond. And we've set a pretty lofty goal of 2,000 pounds of homegrown food donated this year and next. Some of the pictures that you see there on the picnic tables were actually produce that we harvested in 2022. And we currently have lots of different varieties of peppers, tomatoes, carrots, actually, that I know the Girl Scouts love to harvest, currently planted in that particular vegetable garden. So we're pretty proud of this garden, and we hope that it will do nothing but expand the knowledge of our community and attract people to come visit this garden. We've said sometimes that we feel like we're the best kept secret in Fort Bend County, which is not something we want. We really want to spread the word about gardening and home vegetable gardening in order to enhance the lives of really all residents in Fort Bend County. And eventually, we hope people from other counties will come and learn from this particular garden. And I believe that's the end of my presentation, Jayla.
Wonderful. What a beautiful place. I love to see. It's such a tidy, and I like the straight lines, and I just love this garden. Thank you so much for sharing. So I do have a quick question for you. Well, let me ask you this first. What's your favorite part of the garden?
My favorite part of the garden is just what you said. It's all kind of compact, and you can cover all those areas of education. Really, we have a wonderful facility. We have the training in a building that's just adjacent to it, air conditioning and that whole thing. And then you literally just walk right outside across the parking lot, and it's all there. All the edible training and educational opportunities are right there. And to me, it's very convenient for people to get to from the road, and hopefully eventually see from the road when we have the fruit trees planted. So I think that's it. The fact that it's all there for everyone to enjoy.
Exactly. Well, it is a beautiful garden, and Carol, we cannot thank you enough for being here with us and sharing your experiences and your stories and the grant and the donation of foods and all of that with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to show off this garden. I'm only one of many master gardeners in Fort Bend County who made this happen. I was just one small, tiny part of it, but I was allowed to present to you today. And I have to give thanks and praise to all those master gardeners that were part of this undertaking.
Well, it takes an army, and it shows, and we just love this. And so I'm going to invite all of our viewers to come visit your garden.
We are ready.
I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much.